eventually people are going to say, what the hell is going on?
No matter how far you go into the dark, when you flip, you go exactly the same place to the light. In our galaxy, everything. Because everything is in balance. Everything is a polarity.
I think it's just going to get weirder and weirder and weirder, and finally it's going to be so weird that people are going to have to talk about how weird it is.
Good morning, everybody. How are we all today, guys? That jam never gets old, does it? It never gets old. I would like to make something for the intro, though. I mean, I love The Falling Astronaut, but I would really like some kind of compilation of just like all the weird shit that is just going on all the time. Something that kind of represents every facet of everything that's going on in the world of UFOs. But how are we all today, guys? It's the middle of the day for me here in Australia on a Monday, which is a bit of a weird time to stream, but I know it's probably a good time for a lot of you guys. So can we get a roll call? Where is everyone at? Can we get a where are you? What time is it? And how are you? Let me know how we're going. We actually had a lot of people in here early. Dawn Riggs became our latest weirdo before the stream even started. So can we please get some love hearts in the chat for Dawn Riggs? We've got Andrew, Shawn, Poland Power, Adam Howes, Nicole, Jared, Tamara, Shawn, already said that one, Shady, Heather. Good stuff. Great to see you guys. Thank you all for being here. 3:30 a.m. in Scotland. David, what are you doing, brother? Go to bed. Get some sleep, my man. 10:30 in North Carolina. Yeah, this is prime time for the United States. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this is a good time for you guys. And it works for me too. So maybe we need to start getting a few more streams happening at this time of the week. But got a little bit I want to talk about today. You can probably tell by the thumbnail. Got a lot to do with how dead the internet actually is. And I feel like we already knew that. We've talked about that a little bit on the channel. But I feel like we sort of experienced it. I personally experienced it quite a bit this week. If you're on X, you probably saw a little bit of what's been going on. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to look at a couple of clips from Shawn Ryan. And I've also got a bit of a game show planned at the end of this one. So it's I don't think it'll take as long as some of the other games that we've been doing. But this game show is going to be called Fact or Sciop. And you guys get to decide. And actually, I don't think I get to vote. But this is one that I can actually participate in rather than just kind of be the host. So we're all going to be playing a game of Fact or Sciop a little bit later. But actually, and just while the stream's at the very start and you guys are here, if you could all do me a favor, in the link of this, there should be a link to my second channel, which has nothing on it just yet, but it's going to kind of serve as like a backup channel and just kind of a place where we can chuck in stuff that maybe might not directly relate to UFOs, but we can still talk about. So the link is below there. If you guys could do me a massive favor and go and give that one a follow or a subscribe, because I will probably be putting content on there pretty soon. Redondo Beach. Where is that? I've never heard of that. What else we got? Florida, Delaware, Perth. Shout out to the Aussies tuning in on a lunchtime on a Monday, either working from home or not working at all. Canada. Beautiful. Good stuff, guys. I love it when we've got people in here from all around the place. Toronto. That's what we love to see. That's it, guys. Don't forget to hit the like as well. Let's help get this stream out there. I think where I want to start off with is obviously the dead internet. And before I go too deep into it and give you my thoughts, we're going to watch this clip. Now, some of you guys may have seen the Shawn Ryan show this week. And actually, Shawn Ryan was on Tucker Carlson's show. And I want to just say, fair play to Shawn Ryan. I made a video earlier in the year, around January, kind of talking about the fact that it felt like Shawn Ryan's show was a bit of a CIA psyop. And I still think there's a possibility that it might be in some weird way, but I don't think Shawn himself is like a nefarious guy. I definitely don't get that vibe from him. That was really solidified through his interview with Tucker Carlson. So I just want to say that because in the video that we did earlier in the year, I kind of alluded to that, to the fact that he was, because it felt like that. But, you know, things change, right? As we get new information, we should adjust our views. And I'm a big advocate for that. So, you know, the last time I kind of talked about Shawn Ryan, I was kind of saying he sort of seems like he's a bit of a Sciop. But I just want to clarify that I don't really think that at the moment anymore. But he's had some interesting guests on his show. So you guys might remember. So the guy that he had on is this guy here. Now, if you've been following me for a little while, we don't need that just yet. If you've been following me on Instagram for a little while, you would have seen that about 2 months ago, I posted this guy. Where is he? By the way, if you're not following me on Instagram, now is your chance. At Josh Polarity. No, that won't get you anywhere. At Polarity Josh is the correct format. This guy here. Let's watch this.
And most in Congress have not had time to really look deeply
at
what's going on here. But I've had the benefit of 33 years of studying and becoming friends with these engineers and these scientists. This technology can be built today with technology that is not developmental to deliver any human being from any place on planet Earth to any other place in less than an hour. To deliver Wi-Fi from space, where you never need a cell tower to connect. To deliver energy from space, where you never have to plug your phone in, and it trickle charges, and you can use that energy over time. It can be applied to cars, to houses. The technology of Edison and Tesla that we live with in our energy environment, our paradigm today, is expensive, it's dangerous, and it's wasteful. Plug it into the wall, but yet that's what we all do because we are used to paradigms. The power of space will change world.
So that I posted that video like, I don't know, 2 months ago, right? But that is actually from 2019, okay? And this is the guy who was just on Shawn Ryan. So obviously the big quote in there is that they can transport anyone anywhere on the planet from point A to point B in under an hour, which is, you know, a wild thing to say. What does that mean? He doesn't really go into depth into it there, but it's a big point. This is the guy that was on Shawn Ryan, and I want to show you a clip from that because it kind of leads into what I think about the dead internet and how I feel like so much of the drama, conflict, issues, and like aggression that we see online is manufactured by bots, by AI that is far more sophisticated than I think we realize. And I think it kind of has, it's literally like the Matrix, right? Because I feel like this AI generates drama and conflict, but the people who don't realize that it's AI or that it's social engineering are buying into it, and then they become part of it. Then they become the Matrix. They become an organic version of these robots that is reinforcing this argument, this conflict, this drama that has just been created for the purpose of division. Let's take a look at what Steve Kwast is his name. By the way, just before we do get into that, I don't want to miss it. We had a membership. We had a new weirdo from Linnea. Space is out. Lynn, welcome to the Polarity Members Club, our newest weirdo. Can we see some loves, Polarity loves and hearts in the chat for Lynn? And let's check this out. I think we've got the correct timestamp here, so we'll let this run for a little bit.
What you do. What you do is you are trying to find truth. And we are living in an age where we are moving from an industrial age to a networked age. And we're like teenagers, and we don't have the tools to know what truth is. Look at the AI. Look at the lies in the narrative. Then we get social media that's like, oh, great, now we can triangulate truth. We don't have to rely on just one news broadcast and believe the TV. because we found the TV is lying to us. But now those that understand that information is the most powerful weapon in the human race.
Just think about that. I'll try not to interrupt this too much because I know that's annoying for you guys, but just information is the most powerful weapon. Getting a group of people, the bigger the group, the better. Getting a group of people to follow along with your line of thinking or to believe in something is more powerful than anything. And he's saying how at one point we realized the TV was lying to us. And now we think we can triangulate truth through social media and the internet, which was how it was pitched, right? The internet was kind of pitched as, you know, a way for us to be able to consolidate the truth. But it's kind of like arrogant for us to think that, you know, these intelligence agencies, the CIA or whatever you want to call them, were not already like one step ahead of the game. Like, you know, for us to think they weren't already going to be doing the same tactics that was happening with TV to social media is kind of just ignorance, right?
That the most lethal weapon is right between your ears. And if I can influence what's going on between your ears and what you see is true and what reality is, I can shape that so that you act in my best interest, not in your best interest. And so part of what happens here is our government tells us stories about what is true, who's the bad guy, who's the good guy. Here's why your tax money needs to go to this. Here's why we need to, have inflation, and we all believe it because we love our country, and we don't want to be at war, and we don't want insecurity. We want peace, prosperity, and health for us and everybody on the planet. But there are perverse incentives for big companies and governments to weave a tale that deceives the population to perpetuate the wealth, control, and security of a very small group of people that are getting rich on the current methodology.
This is like exactly what Matthew Brown said. Like he's basically saying you are controlled by a narrative that is told to you because that perpetuates the current system that's going. And I think I have the right clip here. I'm going to try and pull it in and we're going to see how we go. But check this out.
Somebody was flying these things that crashed. Somebody built these things that are being reverse engineered. Who's that somebody? And why don't they come forward? I mean, you may not have seen that in a document or a file or something somewhere, but you've thought about it. You're a smart guy. What are your thoughts on the big picture questions? Who are they? Why are they here? Why don't they show us what's going on?
I think I have as a resource.
Do they allow us to get these?
I'm looking for a particular bit here. I think this is the right clip.
Across those. I think those are all some of the deepest secrets.
Right. They would be if
of a science that is tightly controlled and suppressed and distorted. I think we are left behind.
humans.
I think normies, the normal humans, the people have been left behind. Us.
Mm-hmm.
People need to understand that we might have freedom of speech, but that has been subverted. We do not have freedom of inquiry. We are blocked from learning what we need to know. Just in the public world, we are blocked from advancing in science. We are taught false science intentionally to prevent us from learning more. We live in the Matrix. It's just much more boring than the movie.
Okay. That wasn't the exact clip I was looking for, but I think it still kind of got part of the point across that we're talking about here. You guys would have seen that, well, you might not have seen, you guys definitely would have seen that I've been talking about MH370 a little bit on the channel lately. And it's crazy how when you talk about this on Twitter, there are these accounts that just pop up out of nowhere, accounts I've never seen before, and they like viciously attack you for just like suggesting, not even suggesting, but holding the belief that the MH370 videos might be real. Okay. You guys obviously know that that's my belief. I'm not like married to it because I don't think I'll ever be like 100% on anything unless there's verifiable proof. I'm open to everything. But to me, there's so many things about those videos that don't make sense from a visual effects perspective. And I've seen the debunks. I've seen the way people can composite certain things to almost match up, and it looks very compelling. I get that. But like that doesn't make sense from like a workflow perspective. Anyway, I made a full video about that. We don't really need to go into that. But what I'm talking about is the fact that for me, it's like so sus that when I just talk about MH370, all of these accounts come out of nowhere and start attacking me, and not even just like attacking my perspective. But then they're like I got included, like they started making like memes about me, not just me, but like me and other people who also kind of think this, not just Ashton either. It's like a group of like 6 people, people like putting me on some list of like grifters and shit like that. Like it's wild. And like to me, when I see that, I'm just like, dude, this is so sus. Like to me, it's like normal people don't behave like that. You know what I mean? Like, if I saw someone online saying aliens aren't real, UFOs aren't real, all of this, or anyone who just believes in aliens and UFOs are lunatics, right? They're just lunatics. And, I obviously do believe in them. Bro, I'm not going to fire up my Twitter account and start putting these people in pictures and making memes and attacking them. Like, what the fuck? Who does that? Like, so I think, I'll tell you who I think does that. First of all, it's bots. I think it starts with bots. And then I think people with like a low intellect, or people who are very bored, people who have no purpose in their life. People with no purpose in their life are the ones that are easy to manipulate. I think people with no purpose in their life are the ones that will latch onto something to give themselves meaning. And I feel like when you have bots that allow people to jump on a train that feels like they're serving some kind of like justice, or or like determining right from wrong or whatever, those people are the ones that buy into bots, and then these bots end up programming people, and now you have this like conglomeration of real people who are just following a narrative that was generated by bots, and now you have this like little army of bots and angry people who dedicate their whole like X account to a cause or a purpose. And obviously what I have found in this last week is this little pocket of the internet of people who in some cases their whole account is about MH370 isn't a hoax. Wait, is that right? No, that like MH370 videos are a hoax. That's what their whole account is dedicated to. Bro, imagine dedicating your whole account to that. Like, that's wild. Like that to me is the most sus shit ever. Like, dude, what about like, there's levels to it, right? Like some people dedicate their account to their favorite sports team. Now, even I think that's weird. Okay, I don't mind sport. I like sports. Okay, I do like sports and I watch sport. I think it's all about imbalance. But people who dedicate their whole X account to a sports team, to me, it's like you're a harmless NPC. You're a harmless NPC. But people with that same kind of programming in here, it comes off as extremely sus. And I feel like these people don't realize, well, of course they don't realize how like indoctrinated they are. And I feel like it's all done from bots. It has to be, because normal people don't attack other people for having a different belief than them. That's crazy. Like, that's actually crazy. And I think that is the root of kind of the problem with modern society. And it makes me wonder how much of it is actually by design. $2 super chat from Toxic Fart. What a great name. Josh is being attacked by Batman villain Poison Ivy. Yeah, it's not just me though. It's not just me. It's been kind of interesting, you know. I feel like I've sort of dipped my toes into what it must be like to be Ashton Forbes. Because obviously he gets so attacked, and you know, I mean, Ashton states his beliefs in a very matter-of-fact way, which I personally think is probably not the best idea, even though I get it, and he's very firm in his belief, and good on him. Like, it's good that he has so much conviction in what he's studying. But I still think for the purpose of making your research digestible to a broader audience, you shouldn't be so firm in what you're putting forward. Because at the end of the day, we still just don't know. There is still that little bit of maybe not. Yeah, his tone does ask for trouble. And, you know, I think that's something that he could maybe do a little bit better to help get his message across. But I will say, at the end of the day, let's say that, you know, everything he's researched is true. And then if that is the case, then I think we could probably agree that there would be some kind of like highly coordinated disinformation campaign likely ran by aggressive bots online to help muddy the waters, steer the narratives, and confuse people, right? So just put yourself in his shoes for a moment, right? Put yourself in his shoes, and you've just uncovered this research that in your heart you know is true, and you're just getting a barrage of like insults online. Now, he's only human, right? Like I say, I don't condone the way he talks sometimes, but you know, what would it be like to, you know, is it the same reason why Greer kind of comes across like a bit of a knobhead, right? Because, you know, for Greer, he's been knowing this shit was real for 30 years, and people have been insulting him. No wonder he comes across like a dick sometimes. He's probably just over it. He's over it. And I feel like maybe Ashton's the same. Now, I can't speak for him, but, you know, I always just I can't help but try to look at things from multiple perspectives. And I think that's important, right? You should always try to look at things from in someone else's shoes. I feel like that's how you get a more rounded perspective on something. And that's kind of why, well, I mean, I guess that's why I have my conclusions on the MH370 videos that I do. And the only reason that I'm confident enough to sort of speak out on it publicly, and also I'm open to being wrong about it. You guys know that. I'm open to being wrong. You have to be open to being wrong, especially in public. But it's because of the visual effects stuff. That's kind of why I get the confidence on it that I do, because I know what would have had to have... I know the kind of decisions that would have had to have been made to make those videos, and they are so strange and just like make zero sense. And then you combine it with the fact of, okay, orbs weren't actually in the conversation really like at all in 2014. Really, they were not in the conversation at all in 2014. So is that just a good guess that orbs teleported a plane, that now in, you know, 11 years later, orbs seem to be everywhere in the skies? That Dr. Salvatore Pais is watching those videos saying he kind of understands what he's looking at. Is that another coincidence that this bedroom hoaxer just happened to, replicate fringe theoretical physics. I don't know. Maybe they are all coincidences, and you know that would be kind of crazy, right? But for me, there's enough coincidences there to be like, you know what? I think I'm going to suspend my belief in the mainstream narrative here, and I'm kind of comfortable in openly, publicly stating that I think these videos at least have some weight to them, and we can't just wipe them aside just yet. Borbs and baby Borbs. The skies are full of Borbs right now. You guys would have saw my latest video in Arizona. How good was that lady? I saw a lot of people kind of hating on that lady in the comments, but dude, she seemed like a lot of fun. But she's like, woo, I'm not drunk this time. Yeah. Still could be bug spheres though that took away the plane. Oh, like the boogosphere? Maybe. I'm still not sold on that, by the way. Yes, exactly. I'm glad you guys brought that up. She is not a sugar baby. I think there is still confusion about that in the comments. Look, let's just get that straight, okay? That she is not a sugar baby. I know what you were all thinking. I know what you were all thinking when we loaded up her profile was is she a sugar baby? So I'm glad we could clarify that early and just get it out the way, because I wouldn't want you guys to be confused about that. Yeah, the boogosphere, I'm not sold on it. Not sold on the boogosphere. It doesn't look right, and I know that's a weird thing to say, because it's like, well, what am I comparing that to? Like, I don't have an authentic alien Borb in my garage to compare it to, but it's just something about it. And now we're getting all these scans coming out saying, it's got like fiber optics in it, or, there are these interesting scans coming out, but, I don't know. It's just that feeling, that intuition feeling, something's off. And speaking of intuition, I kind of wanted to weave that into this whole dead internet talk, right? I think I put up a tweet earlier today because like there are people commenting on things that are AI. Or no, people are asking AI, is this AI, right? With photos and videos. And the irony in that is kind of funny because, can we even trust an AI to tell us if something is AI or not? Like, okay, let's say the internet is dead and so much of the shit that we are seeing online is actually engineered by AI to confuse us, to steer a narrative, to control the conversation. Let's say at the root of it, like underneath like Claude, Grok, ChatGPT. This is just an example, okay? Underneath all of these front-end facing AI models is a larger neural network that is kind of like the machine behind all of these large language models, right? At the root of it. Is that going to even tell you the truth? If at the very root, it's the same AI that is making a fake AI video to trick you about a boogosphere or whatever. It's over here, it's made this fake video, and now you've got Grok over here, but they all come from the same root, and you're going, Grok, is this video real? Do you think Grok's going to tell you the truth when at the very bottom, like, it's all the same stuff? I don't know. Look, there's just a theory, but I think we need to start using our brains a little bit more and critical thinking. First of all, not getting upset when someone has a different opinion to you, but also just like leaning into your own intuition a little bit more, I think, and just trying to like get more in touch with like what feels true deep down. Now, I know, that's not something we can like fully rely on, but I feel like it needs to play more of a part in our decision making and the things we decide to believe in or give our attention to. Look within. Exactly. Grok Lesnar. I love that. I love Grok Lesnar. We're rolling with that one. Whoop, I just lost my chat for a second. $5 super chat from Zapparoo. Great job, Josh. Ashton has it correct. Department of Defense admits spending millions annually on disinformation, which includes the internet. You're exactly right. I think this is exactly why, you know, I feel like we are doing ourselves a disservice by getting too upset or invested in literally anything we see online. Anything. Like, I've always said, if the things you see on your TV and online, if you didn't see them, how would it affect your day-to-day life? Because I think so much of what we see on the news, and I'm not saying that doesn't mean it's real, by the way, but like so much of what we see online doesn't actually affect our day-to-day life. But for some people, it can affect them mental state so much. Like, let's just stick with the mainstream news, for example, because they're way easier to shit on because they're just so bad. Mainstream news, usually full of like war, full of, you know, inflation rates, tax rates going up, mortgage rates going up. It's full of stuff. And, you know, that stuff can be real, right? You know, if your mortgage is going up, then that's real. Fair enough. But so much of it is stuff that I think problems overseas, this kind of stuff isn't going to actually mess with your day-to-day life, but it will affect your mental state by consuming it, which will then have an effect in your day-to-day life. Now, all of a sudden, you know, you might see someone out in public that has a, who might be wearing something that shows that they have a different political belief to you. Now, if you weren't watching the mainstream news, that would probably not bother you that much. That would probably just be like, okay, they have a different belief to me. But when you watch the mainstream news, I feel like that could be like, oh my God, that person hates me, or I hate them now, because like that's what Twitter, mainstream news does to your thinking. Like, listen to what he just said in that clip. We're going to wind it back a little bit here, just to emphasize that.
Somebody was flying these things that crashed.
This one. We're going to wind this back a bit. Just before we do, quickly, David Harkins, welcome to the Members Club. You're our latest weirdo. Can we get some Polarity loves and hearts in the chat? We're just going to watch this back one more time. We've got a few more people here, and I think this is important.
And is right between your ears. And if I can influence what's going on, what you do, what you do is you are trying to find truth. And we are living in an age where we are moving from an industrial age to a networked age. And we're like teenagers, and we don't have the tools to know what truth is. Look at the AI. Look at the lies in the narrative. Then we get social media that's like, oh, great. Now we can triangulate truth. We don't have to rely on just one news broadcast and believe the TV because we found the TV is lying to us. But now those that understand that information is the most powerful weapon in the human race, that the most lethal weapon is right between your ears. And if I can...
So think about that. Think about that. The most lethal weapon is your mind. And your mind is controlled via programming, via information. And, you know, I don't know if it's a coincidence or not that the things you see on TV are called programs, right? I don't want to be like too fucking tinfoil hatty and be like, oh, it's programming your mind, whatever. But I mean, it is. It actually is. So whether the naming convention is a coincidence or not, I don't know. But seriously, like, I just want to reinforce the idea that like we really, really need to think about what is coming into our minds. Like I've said in a previous video, you aren't what you eat, you look like what you eat, you are what you consume. And that is the media that you put into your mind. It plays with you, and like Steve Kwast just said, it is the most powerful weapon. It seriously is the most powerful weapon. And where you focus your attention will become your reality. And if you start to focus your attention on negativity, fighting, bots, okay, bots on Twitter who may be digital or organic humans who just can't think for themselves, if that's where you focus your time and attention, that is what your reality will become. And I think that conversation can go so much deeper because, you know, what does that mean? And that's when we get into like some real sort of metaphysical talk about like what is reality, is where we focus, like, because my individual reality is just where I focus on. Someone right next to me could not be interested or spend time doing anything that I do, and then their reality and their experience through life is just so vastly different. So vastly different. Like a quick example is like, you know, I've got 3 brothers and a sister. None of them are really you know, as deeply interested in this stuff as I am. Okay, a couple of them sort of watch what I do, but not much. If I spoke to one of them about like what's happening in 2027, you know, 2027, which I'm actually planning to do a video on today, so that might be out tonight or tomorrow. I'm really looking forward to that one. If I spoke to them about that, if they watch that video, they will probably just be like, what the fuck, dude, are you okay? Like, what are you talking about? What are you talking about 2027? Like, do you know what I mean? And whether it's true or not, whether the 2027 stuff is true or not, for them, the fact that it's not in their mind at all, what does that actually mean for it being truth? Like, if reality is just our own perception and you've made a conscious decision or maybe even unconscious decision to not perceive it at all, then like, what is that? Because his whole life experience, he's not thinking about 2027, aliens, UFOs. He's just happy, going about his day, having a great time, loving life. You know, what does that mean? Is it something to do with like ignorance is bliss? Is that what a red pill is? Yeah, different timelines, parallel realities. You know, does shifting your focus actually is that shifting your reality? Because you now live in the reality in the world, let's say, of like UFOs and 2027 and conspiracies and psyops. But if you're not interested in that shit, are you, like, you can have a whole life with friends and people and interests who have nothing to do with that. Like, is that therefore a parallel reality? I don't know. Like, I actually don't know, and I find it really interesting. If you knew 100% something bad was going to happen, would you tell anyone, or would you let them be happy while they can? It's interesting you say that, Kat, because I'm pretty sure that's a almost word for word, not word for word, but a Lou Elizondo quote where he says, you know, if I have cancer, I want to know. Like, just because I have cancer and it's bad news and it's hard to tell me, I still would want to know. Why worry about 2027 if you don't have to? Live each day as if it's your last. Yeah, 100%. The thing I think about 2027 is like, if it's going to happen, like if it is actually going to happen and it is what it is, then like, what do you like? Are we going to spend the next 2 years crying about it and buying all the toilet paper at Woolies like a freak? Okay, relax. If that's going to happen, I mean, I say relax, but I know nobody would relax. I know that there would never be any more toilet paper at Woolies ever again. If everyone knew that 2027 was actually the end of the world. But, you know, I would just say, what are you going to do about it? Okay, it's going to happen. May as well just try and enjoy the rest of your life. Okay. And, you know, I also believe that life continues after death. Maybe not in this like 3D reality sense, but I do believe, I think I buy into the idea that our souls are maybe not like eternal, but they definitely have a much longer lifespan than our time in this body. And probably we've likely had bodies before this, experiences before this, and I feel like we'll probably have more after this as well. Crazy, I just commented about this yesterday on a Facebook post. More and more people are starting to notice the bots are everywhere. Dude, 100% Brandon. You know, I feel like if people could, if we could really get this message out and really start to make people understand that like you are interacting with bots, you are giving your time to bots online. You're letting bots control your emotional state. And I feel like having your emotional state controlled is the, sorry, I keep playing with my mic, but it's the worst mic stand ever. When you have, like, if you're not in, okay, let me put it like this. If you're not in control of your own emotions, are you even in control of your own life? Okay, if you're trying to go from point A to point B, okay, and to get there, you just need to focus on it, okay? You just want to have a good, happy life, you know, with enough wealth to be comfortable and to do the things you want to do from point A to point B, right? If you are constantly getting your emotions manipulated by politics online, by people attacking you for having a certain opinion online, or whatever, okay? Fear, war, terrorism, all this shit that if you actually didn't consume any of it would not affect your waking day-to-day life. But because it does, when you're trying to get from point A to point B, you're getting pulled left and right to terrorism, to, you know, conspiracy theories, to psyops, to this, to that, to conflict. You're never going to get anywhere. You can't get to point A to point B because you're not even in control of your emotions. Therefore, your path will never be a straight and easy one. It will constantly be getting yanked and pulled all over the place. But all of that yanking and pulling, I truly believe, comes from an intentional effort to divide people and confuse people and make people upset. Because for as long as we've known, dividing and conquering is the best way to control people. If souls can't reunite with loved souls with remembrance, that would be disappointing. However, if so, probably wouldn't know. Just watched a vid on ancient Egypt and disclosure. Good stuff. Keep up the good work, brother. Thanks, man. Appreciate that. Accounts of NDEs, near-death experiences, and out-of-body experiences are also similar from people across the globe. I can't see how one couldn't believe in a soul. 100%. I think near-death experiences, which are so interesting, by the way, I think near-death experiences and out-of-body experiences and DMT experiences, I haven't had any of the... Actually, sorry, I have had an out-of-body experience. I haven't had a near-death or... Well, I've kind of had a near-death experience, but not in the sense of like I left my body type thing. But I did have a hectic experience one time. I've not had any of those except the out-of-body, but it's those stories that, you know, are independent around the world, hundreds and thousands of people all telling us the same thing. Like, what does your intuition tell you about that? When there are thousands of people around the world for decades all saying, oh, when I either took DMT or nearly died, I left my body. I looked down and I could see everyone in the room. I know things that they said when I was clinically dead. I saw entities that imparted knowledge onto me, that told me things that actually, that when the experience was over, my life improved by implementing the things that they told me. Like, if thousands of people are saying this stuff and have been for decades, what does your intuition tell you that means? Because I think everyone's intuition, whether the people can hear it or are in touch with it at all or not, it would be telling them that that means something, because this isn't just one person. This isn't just two people that know each other. This is thousands of people over decades who all don't know each other, who are all telling the same story or very similar. So what do you think that means? And what do you think it means when we hear these things that we get equally thousands of bots? Sorry, we get thousands of people online who have faceless accounts, whose accounts generally seem to be very aggressive when they speak and are dedicated to some kind of cause. We have thousands of these accounts who are faceless, trying to delegitimize, attack, and ridicule the people that are saying these things. what does that mean? Why are real people around the world saying things that sound very like impactful and that could have a massive impact on society, yet we also have thousands of faceless anonymous accounts that let's just call bots online who are trying to argue that point? That sounds like information war on like who we are and like learning more about the truth of reality. That's what it is. It sounds like people trying to control the truth of reality, which is exactly what Matthew Brown has said, that we live in a controlled fake reality. And I think, like, think about this, if we have ChatGPT for free, we get ChatGPT for free. Nothing in life is free. You all know that nothing is free, but we can use ChatGPT for free. Obviously, you can pay for it as well. But if we get ChatGPT for free, what does the military have in the top end of their black budget programs in the AI department? I think it would blow people's minds. It'd be scary. It would be scary. If something is free, you're the product. Exactly, Yoshi. The Truman Show, Beth. Yeah, it is. And we showed that clip the other week as well of when that studio light falls out the sky. Truman's looking at it and he's kind of like, what the hell is this? What could this be? And then he gets in the car and conveniently the news on the radio says, that was just a plane breaking up over the sky. And Truman just goes, okay, and just gets on with his life. I think that scene is like just so deeply symbolic of the world. We've all heard they have a private AI like GPT. I think it would be ChatGPT on like the most intense steroids that could ever exist. I think we've got another little clip here I wanted to show of just continuing on from that. So let's jump back over here. Remember, guys, we do have a game show to play. We're going to be playing Fact or Sciop shortly. If anyone hasn't as well, there's a link in the description for my second channel. I think it should be there. If you can't see it, let me know. I'll chuck it up, but it should be there. And if it's not, I'll get the mods to chuck. Actually, I should put it in Discord, but I'll get the mods to chuck it in the channel as well. There's going to be sort of different content coming up over there. It's kind of like a backup channel at the same time as well. But if you guys could follow that, that would be amazing. And there is another clip here. I think somewhere around here. Have we got sound? Yes.
See that and help people connect where they're actually talking to one another and listening to one another is key. But the same is happening here with technologies and China. We, as an American society, tend to just believe our own press and think that our way of thinking is dominant. And it has worked. But if we don't understand China's cultural mindset, we could end up being a victim to it. Now, it's really important here to state two facts. One, the Chinese people are beautiful. The Russian people are beautiful. People in every culture are just beautiful people. But whenever you are under a governance rule set that steals away freedom, steals away freedom of choice, which is something I believe has been planted in the hearts of every human being, and the Bible tells us, and God is clear, free choice, free will. This is how we know whether you're good or bad. If you have no freedom, I don't know if your heart is good or is bad because you don't make any choices. You're being forced to make choices that, and so when I see systems like communism, socialism, that have a historical precedence rooted in human nature of murdering its own people in order to maintain control and taking away personal freedom. This is why we have to be so careful and why what you're doing is at the core of our survival as a nation. Because free will is predicated on understanding truth. You got to know what's going on in your strategic environment, or again, you're not free. You're making a
Free will comes from understanding truth. Like, and this part is like 30 minutes later than the bit we looked at before, but I feel like they do connect really well. Because like he was saying earlier, we think that through social media, we have the ability to triangulate truth ourselves, right? No longer do we just have the mainstream media pushing down one story that we are just expected to like eat up, which we know we can't trust, right? We know for a long time we can't trust the mainstream media. But he's saying that we think we can triangulate truth through social media, but our perception of truth, even there, is being distorted through AI, through probably tactics that we can't even wrap our head around. Like, I believe that the people responsible for sowing conflict and division would always be 2 steps ahead. So I feel like, you know, we're talking about the dead internet today, and that how many people on X and whatever are just not real and are there with the intention to confuse people. I feel like we are waking up to that now, but it's probably been happening far longer than we realize, far longer. And by the time people actually start to reclaim some autonomy of their own mind and maybe step away a little bit from how much they allow what they read online to dictate their reality and their beliefs, by that point, there will probably be a new formula that is being instilled to continue the conflict and the division.
a decision that has been shaped in your brain by somebody that's trying to get you to do something in their interest, and you're actually doing something counter to your own self-interest. So in order to understand what China is doing, what Russia is doing, and what is going on in the world, we have to be able to understand truth. And truth has been morphed and mutated. In fact, the information domain is now a battle space. We used to believe the TV. And when we found out the TV was lying to us and our government was lying to us, then social media and this new technology came about, and we're like, oh, starting to rush there. How do I triangulate truth here? And now we see that liars and storytellers that are trying to get us to believe something that is not true have infiltrated the social media and even the podcast world. So I say we're like teenagers in this information age, and we still don't have the tools to triangulate truth quickly enough.
We are teenagers in the information age. And it's interesting there that he actually mentioned specifically podcasts, that podcasts have been infiltrated. And this is exactly what Kelly Chase had been talking about. And I don't know if you guys are very familiar with her work or what she's been talking about, but Kelly Chase basically said that there are, and we're talking specifically about the realm of, UFOs and these kind of topics, that there are signal groups with people in them, people who generally do the podcast circuits and people who, and podcast hosts. And there are like lists of podcasters who you are allowed to go on and podcasts who you are not allowed to go on. And there is this kind of like controlling of like who can talk and who can't, and whose podcasts they're allowed to go on. And I don't know what exactly what dictates that, but I would assume it's people who are maybe pushing a certain narrative. It's very interesting though. It's very interesting when you look at the type of people who appear on certain podcasts and the type of people who don't. For example, this is one person that I've been interested in for a while, and I think there's a really interesting case there. And I haven't talked about him on my channel, which is odd because you could kind of say, well, am I just another one of these people who haven't had him on? But Eric Hecker, I remember when Eric Hecker's story first broke, and I was like, whoa, this is like, this is extremely interesting. He's basically a guy who worked for, I don't want to get this wrong, but I'm pretty sure it was Raytheon. He was a Raytheon contractor in Antarctica. And essentially his role there gave him access to all of the bases in Antarctica. He had the keys to every building, essentially, because whatever his role was there, it was kind of necessary for him to do that. And he kind of worked out from being there over a long period of time that, yes, there are a lot of scientific research bases there. There are a lot of the things there do what they say they're going to do, but there is also a dual purpose for some of these buildings, and that one of the buildings essentially acts like I'm pretty sure what he says is like a flight control tower for UAP. Some kind of tower that can detect the neutrino signals from these craft. Essentially, when a UAP is going to materialize in like our 3D reality, or when it's going to appear, just before that happens, there is some kind of signal that is able to be detected, some kind of neutrino signal that is not detectable through like most basic sensor systems, right? And that is what this thing in Antarctica actually does. So when that story broke, I was like, whoa, that's okay. This is a legit whistleblower. This is a very, a guy who worked for the military industrial complex, Antarctica. There's so many threads of conspiracy theory just in that. And he's coming out saying these crazy things. Why is Eric Hecker not on any of the big podcasts? Now, look, I know he has been on a couple. He has actually been on a couple. But like the ones the ones he has been on, correct me if I'm wrong. Can you guys start listening to me the ones he's been on? But I think all I can think of is like Alex Jones. And don't get me wrong, nothing wrong with Alex Jones. He's probably the OG tinfoil hatter. But, it's not like, he's not on Jesse Michaels. He hasn't been on Area 52. He hasn't been on what are some other big podcasts? And by the way, I'm not claiming anything about those podcasts, by the way. But it's like, you know what? I don't even think the podcast that they're on is the right angle that I'm trying to get at here. What I'm trying to get at is, why isn't Eric Hecker a bigger name in this space? That's more what I'm trying to say. Ashton had him on. He was on Shawn Ryan. That's right. I remember that. He was on Gaia, Patrick Bet David. Okay, so this actually kind of pushes my point a little bit more. He has actually been on some big podcasts there, but he's still like, it's like he's not recognized. Do you guys understand what I'm saying by that? Maybe you guys can help me explain it a little bit better, but it's like, arguably, he has some of the most interesting claims that Antarctica has a dual purpose base that is literally an air traffic controller tower for UAP. But Eric Hecker isn't a name that doesn't seem to be, he's not like why isn't he testifying about something at these Congress hearings? Why isn't he up there with like Tim Gallaudet, Lou Elizondo, Ryan Graves, Commander Fravor? Why isn't his name up there? $2 super chat from Toxic Fart again. Hecker lost me when he said he was in MK Ultra. Interesting. Now, I don't know if I know that part of the story. If anyone could give me a quick little synopsis of that bit, because I don't know if I'm familiar with that. But I also want to say something else. And this is where I think, again, coming back to intuition, we need to start leaning into this a little bit more, is that just because someone has... Okay, I think Richard Doty's a good example here. Rick Doty was a known disinformation agent. And, you know, now he's sort of back in the podcast UAP space, kind of saying, okay, yes, I was a disinformation agent, but what I'm telling you now is real. I can totally understand why that is hard to... It's now hard to... He's the boy who cried wolf, right? It's hard to take what he's saying as true because he's admitted to lying to us all before. So then it's like, I think this is where we are kind of forced to lean into intuition, right? Because just because someone tells a lie once, it doesn't mean everything from then on is a lie. Or just because someone was wrong about something once, it doesn't mean they can never be right about something again. But I feel like that is the easy that's the bot response, okay? The bot, either digital or organic, the bot response is you lied once, you got something wrong once, you are now always a liar, you are now always a bot. You are now always wrong. That's the bot response, okay? That's what the programmed people who can't think for themselves default to. Now, I'm not saying it's the wrong way of thinking, because I think it definitely does have some weight, okay? If someone has lied, then we should absolutely be cautious about what they're saying. But you can't just default to it. You can't. You have to assess everything individually, but always include the prior knowledge you have about it. That's what I think. A whistleblower tier list. I like that idea. Crazy T. I've never made them, but I know that I know there are like online programs where you can make the tier list yourself, because doing it from scratch sounds tedious. But if there's an easy way we could put one together, I think that would be a lot of fun. I would definitely like to do that. I love doing that kind of stuff. Doty seems sincere and makes sense. I agree, Beth. He does come across as sincere. But I am also aware, I feel like with Doty, these days, I'm happy to listen to him, but I'll never fully believe anything he says. That's what I would say. I'll listen to Doty and I'll sort of take his information, I'll put it in my pocket and remember it and see if I can corroborate it with anything else that's going on and anything else that we hear. But I'll never listen to Rick Doty and be like, that's true. You just can't. And I think that's probably a reasonable assessment. Because if someone has lied once, I mean, I'd be going against my own advice, right? I say this about the mainstream news all the time. The mainstream news has lied to us so many times that you can't take what they say. You can't not question it anymore. You just can't. You're an idiot if you don't. Because, you know, they can still tell truth, though. That's the thing, is I'm not going to sit here and be like, everything on the mainstream news is a lie. Like, no, that's very tinfoil hat thing to say. But they do lie. And we know that there are companies and corporations that have them in their pocket by funding them. And obviously, you know, these big pharma and whatever aren't going to allow a narrative to be pushed out to the mainstream that is not in their benefit. Of course they're not. So you have to question things, especially coming from sources that have lied before. But it doesn't mean they're always lying. Now, guys, we're going to keep playing this for a sec because there was a little bit more in this clip. We're going to play this. I wanted to talk about a couple of other things quickly, and then we're going to get into the game. And while this is playing, I need to run to the bathroom.
To be able to not make mistakes and drive ourselves off our own cliff. And so our society is in a very vulnerable place right now, where we're trying to hunt, and this is why you're so valuable, because you are taking the time to talk to multiple people to understand where the truth lies. And it's incredibly important.
Thank you. I can't get my mind off of China being on the other side of the moon for years, and we have not sent anything up there. I mean, how does that just slide past a president's desk? Hey, we got China over here, our biggest adversary, biggest potential adversary. We might want to take a look at this.
Well, this president, President Trump, understands this.
He does.
He does.
Well, that's good.
And in fact, he understood it in his first term. And this is why he was willing to put up with the ridicule, sarcasm, and humiliation that came with saying, we are going to create a space force. That space force.
All right. I had my headphones on. I could still hear what was going on. And I feel like that's actually something we didn't get a chance to sort of give the context for. But basically what Steve Kwast is talking about there is that China are allegedly on the dark side of the moon mining helium-3, which is like going to be a new energy source that could power the world for thousands of years. And I don't know, how do you guys feel about that? How do you guys feel? And because he's saying that they know China are on the moon mining helium-3, but I don't know, it's actually quite confusing because I feel like at one point he kind of says that China are on the moon mining helium-3, but he also says they're on the dark side of the moon doing it, so we don't fully know what they're doing. So it's like, well, how do you know they're mining helium-3 if they're on the dark side of the moon and you don't know what they're doing? And he's sort of saying like, oh, we have no probes or satellites there. And like, I don't know how I feel about that because first of all, okay, let's talk a bit of moon landing conspiracy. First of all, we apparently went to the moon 9 times. 9 times if you include the 2 times that we went to the moon but didn't actually land, which was once where we orbited the moon 10 times before we went and landed there. And then the second time they did like a test. They like were going to land, but they like tested it and they went back or whatever. And then they went like 7 subsequent times after that in a space of 3 years. 3 years, by the way, on computers that were not any, they were not even as powerful as a calculator. Okay. 7 times, 3 years, by the way, in 1971, thereabouts. 69 to 72. And now in 2025, Steve Kwast, who we saw earlier, the same guy saying right now we have the technology to take anyone from point A to point B on the planet in under an hour, is also saying that we don't have any kind of probe, spy, reconnaissance, satellite, sussing out what's going on in the moon. Now, I really like Steve Kwast, comes across as a really good guy. And by the way, in the comments here, like, there are some really good comments. Like this guy says, I'm an old man veteran. Okay, that wasn't the comment I thought it was. Here we go. I was deployed with General Kwast while this is a general, by the way, Air Force general. I was deployed with General Kwast while in Afghanistan. He was a true leader and visionary, proud to have served with him. I noticed quite a few comments from people who have like followed this guy or served with him. And they were just like glowing, people just saying he's just like a really top guy. Now, who knows? That could just be more bots going to control the narrative. I don't think so though. But he comes across as a very stand-up guy is what I'm trying to say. But the fact that we apparently put men on the moon in 71, around 7 times, give or take a couple of years, and here we are in 2025, knowing China are mining stuff on the moon, apparently, and we don't even have anything there that could tell us what they're doing, or even just our own like reconnaissance, satellites, whatever. We don't have anything to do with the moon, even though or when I say we, I'm talking about America, kind of talking about the West in general, even though America was the country that went there the first time. But now apparently we don't even have anything there, and China are there mining it. That doesn't make sense to me.
Our side of the moon, we don't know what they're doing because we don't have infrastructure up there to even see what's going on. But we do know they're mining helium-3. And so
we legitimately don't know what China is doing on the other side of the moon.
No, we don't. Because the other side of the moon, most people may not know this, but you only see one side of the moon in the way that it rotates and orbits around the Earth. It's a very interesting phenomenon in orbital mechanics. But it's and so unless we have a constellation of satellites flying around the moon that can see and understand what's going on. We're blind, and that's one reason they're over there. But let me give you a commercial
upset, Steve.
Yeah,
I'm getting real up.
Shawn Ryan was getting real worked up over that, over the fact that China are apparently on the moon mining, and not only is America not, but they like don't even have anything there to suss it out. Shawn Ryan's getting real worked up over that. A lot of people saying Shawn Ryan is an op. People don't watch him anymore. CIA. I get it. The choice of guests and the things that are on the show, I get it. But after watching Shawn Ryan on Tucker Carlson, my intuition, which I think we all need to lean into a little bit more and get in touch with, my intuition tells me that Shawn Ryan himself is not a CIA operative, is not controlled, is not dishonest. I believe Shawn is honest. What I find interesting though about Shawn is that often when these things happen, you know, like when the whole weird thing about the whole Chris Bledsoe episode, the what else was there? The Matthew Livelsberger, the Cybertruck bomber, like when all of this stuff happened, his team was part of the story quite a lot. You know, there was like going back and forth with members of his team, and like his team members of his team got fired and replaced. I feel like the weirdness in Shawn Ryan's show lies with his team. And I don't know who his team are or anything like that. But I feel like if there is something weird, it's maybe someone who he's employed. And yeah, he was a CIA contractor. I don't think that means he still is or anything. But the CIA definitely know who he is. I think there's no doubt about that. So, you know, he's on their radar. He's 100% on their radar. A lot of people talking about breakaway civilizations in the chat, and this is actually something I wanted to make a video about. But no, I'm going to save it for a video because I think it's juicy. I'm going to save that one for a video. Also, look, just before... Actually, you know what? Before we get into the game, I want to talk quickly about something, but we'll do a test run for the game. Okay, this is how the game's going to go. So we're going to be using the poll as normal. But the game we're going to be playing today is called Fact or Sciop. And it's basically we, as a team, are going to find the majority on what we believe on a certain subject, if it's a fact or if it's just a Sciop. So we're going to test this out with what we've just looked at. So is China on the moon mining helium-3? And you guys will determine if that is a fact or a Sciop. So this is how the game's going to run today. We're going to have some visuals. But the poll is up. Is China on the moon mining helium-3? Okay. Is that happening? Is America genuinely unaware of it? And we don't have even a probe to understand what they're doing? And this is true? Or is this stuff just a weird psyop to maybe gain funding for the military? How do I feel about this one? I feel I have the benefit of being able to give more than a one-word answer. Unlucky for you guys. I feel like China may be on the moon mining helium-3. But I definitely don't believe that America doesn't know about it, doesn't have a probe there, doesn't have some kind of reconnaissance or surveillance. No way. No way. We're closing off the poll there. 70 votes. That was a nice little test run of the game we're going to play. 60% of you are feeling Sciop vibes from that. We can stop the music as well. You can give more than a word, Shawn, but it's likely to get lost in the chat. The music makes you think of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. Christine, that's exactly where that music is from. We've got a bit of game show music on the stream deck. Makes it a little bit more fun. One more thing before we get into the game show is you guys may have seen that Lou Elizondo this week has sort of announced that he's stepping away from UFO disclosure. Did you guys see that? And this is obviously a repercussion of the whole irrigation circle. I've been calling it a cornfield. I don't know why. It just looks like a circular cornfield to me. But apparently it's an irrigation circle. I like cornfield better. Just sounds a bit funnier. But yeah, we're talking about the fake picture. And like I said earlier in the show, I always like to think about the alternative perspective. And, you know, we've spent the last week or so giving Lou a lot of shit, rightly so. I stand by that. You know, if you're gonna be the guy that you are, in the position that you are, to show a photo that you have not vetted publicly, and then be surprised when people take you seriously, you're silly. You're a silly goose. You're the silliest goose, actually, because what are you thinking? What are you thinking? But alternative ways of thinking. I've looked at a few Lou Elizondo clips lately, and just, you know, I like to look back at old footage sometimes. And one thing Lou has always said is that it's not like, when it comes to telling the truth and, like, you know, what's going on, what is actually happening here, what is disclosure, who's going to tell us, Lou has actually always said, that's not my job. He said, that's not my job. And I'm sure you guys would agree with me. Like, I'm sure that sounds familiar to some of you. Lou is the stilt man. Where is it? Okay, where is it? Where is it? That's not it. Let's just put this up here while we talk about this topic because it's relevant. Where are we? So, you guys probably saw in the MH370 video, I needed some B-roll, so I kind of did a rough little composite of turning these guys into Lord of the Rings characters, and it was actually, well, I haven't done any like just visual effects stuff like that, like compositing stuff for fun, for since I worked, really, and it was really fun. So I think like a part of me wants to spend like a good day or two and just make like a sick, really like good level composite of these guys in Lord of the Rings as Lord of the Rings characters. I think that'd be so fun. Anyway, where was I? What are we talking about here? We're talking about Lou Elizondo stepping away. He's always said, it's not my job. Like, disclosure is not my job. Which is interesting because I feel like that is what people, like, people do kind of hold him to that. People do hold him to be that guy. Actually, let's move over to this screen. People do hold him to be that guy. But he's never said that he is that guy. So maybe that's our fault. Like, maybe we shouldn't be expecting that from him. I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you guys think that's unreasonable? Lou should be standing on a bench? It always is unfortunate when you see a group photo and there's just one person who's just like horrifically shorter than everyone in the photo. It's just like, damn, they're definitely thinking about that when they saw that photo. I would be. I'm not that tall. I know when I get a photo with someone who's super tall, I'm just like, God damn it. Can we get a photo from like the knees up and someone just get me like a little stool? Dude wrote a book stating disclosure was imminent. He is. Yeah, it's fair. It's fair. Lou put himself in the spotlight, and this is what happens when you act a fool and everyone's looking. Yeah, see, I get it. See, but this is what I mean, right? I think we all make mistakes. and again, I'm not like vehemently defending him here. I'm just trying to think differently. We all make mistakes. Lou has said he's not the disclosure guy, but I think where he went wrong is when people were like, hey, that's a cornfield. What the hell is this? He should have been like, yeah. He should have just been like, yeah, that is fucked. I'm sorry. That's my bad. I'm an idiot. But instead, he was kind of like, well, I did say that it wasn't vetted. It's kind of like, bro, don't do that. Don't do that. Just own it. It's okay. Just own it. We'll make mistakes. You got to own this one. You fight this one. And it's just, this is just one of the ones you don't fight. Pick and choose your battles. This was not it. Lou said in the age of disclosure, what else do you want to know? How about who gave you that picture? How do you know that toxic fart? He said that in the age of disclosure. His reaction is a big part of the issue. Yeah, I agree. Lou should be on a couch for the NBA team behind him. I know what meme you're talking about, sir. Oh, he says that in the trailer, does he? I would like to watch the trailer, but I feel like we might get hit with the copywriters. I would like to watch that though. And by the way, I think I have talked about this, but like, what is going on with that, by the way? Like, what is going on with that movie? Why haven't we seen it already? I don't know. It just feels sus. Like they're either waiting for it to time it with something, or they're just like farming cash from it. I feel like both. Well, whatever it is, it's weird. It's weird, right? Director wants a theatrical release. Right, so they're trying to get it into cinemas. That's fair. But, and look, this is just totally opinion-based now. But Ross Coulthard himself has said that the UFO topic has had like far more attention than any story he's reported on in his life. And he was in like the Middle East in the early 2000s. Like he's done all of the big stories really. And he says the UAP topic is just like on a whole other level, right? So we know that there are people like me, like you guys, that want to see this, okay? There is a huge audience that wants to see this movie and is interested in it. Cinemas and any business likes money a lot. They like money. They will follow the money. They will go where the money is. And there is definitely money in the age of disclosure. So I don't understand what the holdup is. The only holdup I can think of is they're trying to see who's willing to pay the most money, which I guess is understandable to a short degree. Okay, you're trying to put your movie out. Okay, who's got the best offer? Let's go with it. But if they're like, you know, saying these are all the offers, but we want more, we're waiting till someone matches it, then that's gross. That's not right. And I'm not saying that's what's happening, but I don't buy the fact that they can't find a cinema to like a way to put it in cinemas, because I feel like the interest is there, therefore the money is there. Therefore, there would be no issue in finding someone to host their movie. And I feel like streaming services would be eating it up. There's absolutely no uncertainty there. I mean, think about it. Investigation Alien by George Knapp that came out last year was a huge hit on Netflix. And Netflix do a lot of alien UFO stuff as well. So I think there's no there's no uncertainty that this stuff would get eaten up on streaming services. All right, team. I think it's time for a bit of a game. Now, before we get into it, if you haven't already, I have a link to my second channel that is going to be kind of like a backup channel, but also I want to start uploading stuff on it that is just kind of like not real life content, but just a place that I can talk about and do stuff that isn't just aliens and UFOs and conspiracies, if you know what I'm saying. So go to that link. Please subscribe there. Help me out. I think I need 50 subscribers on there to be able to live stream. Okay, so it'd be sick if we could get that and then we could start pumping out some live streams on there. We're going to be playing a little game called Fact or Sciop. And actually, here it is. Okay, so we did a little test run before. This is basically just going to be a general consensus idea to determine if you guys think it's a fact or a psyop, okay? And we're gonna we won't hold the votes too long on this one. I think we'll try and keep this game show moving pretty quickly. But it's going to be working with the polls, and to make my life easier, I think I actually have something here that. Okay, hopefully this will help out a little bit. All right. We're going to kick this one off with a poll. And if anyone doesn't know what Project Serpo is, I'll tell you in just a moment. But it may actually be mildly tedious having to write this every time. I'll set up a copy paste. All right, the poll is up. Project Serpo. Now, if you don't know what Project Serpo is, it was basically, it stems from a series of leaked memos of anonymous insiders claiming that a secret US space program sent 12 people to live on an alien world or an alien planet, potentially Zeta Reticuli, and the mission lasted 13 years before the survivors returned back to Earth. And I believe that this was an exchange program. Okay, these are memos that you can find, but again, it's not really. I think there's a Y-Files episode on it, but again, it's interesting that it's not really part of the mainstream narrative of the things that get talked about in UFO disclosure and what's been going on behind the door of secrecy. Because if this was true, I mean, that's crazy. That's like that is reality shattering. That's Star Wars. But remember, Ben Rich of the Skunk Works did say, whatever you can picture, Star Wars, Star Trek, we can do it. And he said that in 1990 something. 3. I saw someone mention Rick Doty. Yeah, I believe Doty's connected to the Serpo release. Yes, I believe it is. And what's interesting is, I don't know if you guys have seen, I'm going to wrap up the poll here. I don't know if you guys have actually seen, there's a guy on X and he goes by the name of like Whistleblower 24 or something like that. And he's got a bit of an interesting backstory, but I've seen spaces with him and Rick Doty. And this is modern times where Rick Doty is saying that what he's saying is true. And he is talking about things like Project Serpo. That's a kind of a whole rabbit hole. But I think the general consensus here is that Project Serpo is in fact a psyop. Unlucky. Now, I'm just going to get this written out. Fact and psyop. This is going to help with the flow of the show moving forward. The next thing we want to know, fact or psyop, is Skinny Bob. Now, if anyone hasn't seen the Skinny Bob footage, I'll get it up and we can take a quick look at it. But we want to know, I was actually thinking about doing a video on this, but I want to know, do you guys think the Skinny Bob footage, the famous Skinny Bob footage, is it real or is it a psyop? Let's put it to the polls. Skinny Bob footage, probably some of the most famous alien footage that exists online. Is it a fact or is it a psyop? Now, if we see if I see, a couple of people in the chat saying they don't know what the Skinny Bob footage is, we can get it up and play it. Kendra needs to see the video. All right. Let me see what I can do. I'd be keen to take a look at this anyway because it is very interesting. Just got to find my window. I really need to get another monitor. That's one thing I need to do. Damn, I used to have a playlist with this in it. I don't know where that is. But okay. This video seems to have it, so we'll just watch this video with the sound off. right, let's pause the music for a moment. Okay. So this footage here is not so much what we care about, but the next part that it looks at. So there's like a whole story to this footage, and it's I'll go into it deeply in a video, but yeah, this is allegedly leaked footage. This is where it starts. Hey, no, not this one. Where is it? This one. Okay, this is the footage I'm talking about. This is the Skinny Bob footage. This is allegedly leaked from I believe around the 60s. And you know, guys, what's interesting about this footage is not whatever that's pointing to, but is the skin tight black suit, right? We saw the same thing in the Jonathan Reed alien. Saw the same thing in the Rua Zimbabwe case, where all the kids said that they had these black suits on. It's a really interesting detail that seems to track through so many cases. What I've found interesting is the way the eye blinks there. It's a tough one. It's a tough one. It's a tough one. But what do you guys think? I would like to go into that in a little bit more detail in a video. But just on face value, how are we feeling about that? And wait, why is that still on stream? There we go. What do we got? 72 votes in. It's a close one. We're going to wrap it up there, though. We have 51% of you thinking that Skinny Bob is indeed a fact. Well, I think that's one we're going to have to talk about a little bit more in a video. Because it is, yeah. I've been back and forth on that one a lot. There are parts of it that I feel like look a bit CG, but there are other parts of it that I'm not so sure. But speaking of skin tight suits, next one, the Ariel school sighting. So this is one that I'm sure we all know a lot about. 1994, Rua, Zimbabwe, Ariel school. Fact. Sciop. Let's go. Poll is up. Guys, we've got just over 300 viewers. We want to see at least 150 votes here. These are quick polls. You got to get in quick. 3% think that the Ariel school sighting is a psyop. 4%. My question for you would be, how do you explain the children who are telling the same story in the videos from 1994 to today as adults? 5%. 5% of you. I would love to see if the 5% of you who have voted for Sciop, please enter the chat and offer some short explanation as to how or why you think these children are telling the same story as a child to today. 6%. It's climbing. 7%. All right, we're going to wrap it up there. We've got a few to get through, so we're going to keep these kind of short and snappy. But 93% feel that's fact. I definitely have to put myself in the fact camp on that one. But the 6%, I want to hear what you have to say about that. Kids lie, but not those kids. You can tell. I totally agree. I totally agree. I feel like this is one of the most convincing cases of all of them. If I had to pick one, I would say Rua, Zimbabwe and its witnesses. Yep, and Westall, James, exactly. Westall, Melbourne, 66, Rua, Zimbabwe, 94. They are some of the most convincing cases for me. People who have stuck to their story for 30 years. A massive tenor coming in from my man Jay. Has anyone explained who doctored the cornfield pic to look like a UFO? That seems simple and an obvious question. Okay, Jay, I don't have an answer to your question, but I have another question for the chat, or something for people to think about here. And you know, maybe this does put Lou back into question again. The angle that was taken from looks like, and correct me if anyone thinks I'm getting this wrong, the angle that the cornfield photo was taken from looks like a pilot is looking forward and is looking sort of down to his left and has taken a photo, right? If that pilot's in a plane flying forward, surely after he got 500 meters, a kilometer, 2 kilometers ahead, or even when he was past the cornfield and looked back at it, he would have been like, oh, that's not a shadow, it's a cornfield. Like, the pilot didn't just exit the air from that photo and then present the photo to people on the ground. He would have flown around it, near it, seen it from all kinds of perspectives. Like, think about that. Think about that. That makes me, like, when you think about that, that makes me think that that photo didn't come from a pilot. Now, that also doesn't mean, like, I'm not trying to say Lou has presented a photo that came from, like, a fake source intentionally. He still might have presented the photo that he just got given, but what I am thinking feels like a more realistic explanation is that the photo didn't really come from a innocent pilot who saw this photo, because I feel like a pilot would have continued flying in one direction or another, and a pilot who's probably got thousands of hours in the sky minimum to be a pilot would probably have experience in shadows and seeing things, and after that pilot who took that photo flew another 100 meters, 200 meters, a kilometer, would have been like, oh shit, it was just my eyes, that's not a shadow. So that photo that I just took, I'm never going to show that to anyone, because now after flying another 200 meters, I realize that if I show someone that photo, I'm going to look like an idiot because it's obviously a cornfield. Do you understand what I'm saying? It doesn't feel like that is a real photo from a real pilot. That's all I'm going to say. All right, let's move on to the next fact or Sciop here. NASA cutting feeds. Why do NASA live streams mysteriously seem to go black when they spot something? Is there something going on there? Or is this all just misinformation? I guess the question is more, is this a legitimate thing? NASA are cutting feeds. I think actually Ross Coulthard said that when he went for a little trip to NASA, he saw it happen in real time. I've definitely seen the videos of NASA feeds where you start to see what we can call a UFO, an unidentified object that doesn't seem to be a plane or anything like that, that seems to be moving intelligently. And not long after you spot it, it gets cut. Carrie, I think you're right. I think it can be both. In fact, I think it is both. I think the true answer here is that it is a fact, and that therefore is a Sciop. I think we can wrap this one up, because I think it's a tough one to answer, because I think it is true. Both are actually correct, that it is indeed a fact and a Sciop. All right, next one. Let's keep moving. We've got 15 to get through after this. Virginia, Brazil, which apparently James Fox has a little bit more information on, that's going to be coming out in the next, I don't know, the next soon. What do you guys think? Did the Brazilian military actually capture a live alien that allegedly got then taken by the US military to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, I believe? And apparently it stank. Apparently aliens stink, according to multiple sources. Apparently aliens smell like a bin. Fact or Sciop? And we had a $2 come in there again from my man Toxic Fart. Only reason Lou's photo looks real is the tint. Are you saying like the color grading that's on the photo? Now, again, what I find interesting about this is that some of these, where we have a heavy majority, like 90-ish% saying something is a fact, generally says to me, well, it does say that the general consensus is that we all kind of understand that something went on here. But what I'm actually more interested in is the minority that don't believe it. If you are part of the minority that thinks Virginia, Brazil is just a psyop, I want you to sort of explain some of the key points, right? Like why, what do you think about those 3 girls who are telling the same story 30 years later as grown women, and the people who aren't willing to go on camera in Brazil, the people who are afraid to talk about it? Aliens need a bit of Old Spice. Some of these would make lame psyops. I mean, if Virginia, Brazil was a psyop, I don't think it would be a lame one. I think it would be an extraordinary one. I think it would be, like, for the details that we have about it, for it to all be fake. My gosh. If Virginia, Brazil came out to the entire thing was fabricated, then I think we literally could never trust just anything ever again. Ever again. But I don't think that's the case. And I think, personally, 82% of you are probably in the right realm of thinking that there is something going on with Virginia, Brazil. Tamara, you think Virginia, Brazil was a setup? And how do you mean that? How do you mean that? Like, do you mean the alien was planted there? You're going to have to give me a little bit more on that one, because I certainly think that it is a fact and that something odd happened in Brazil. An operation with advanced US tech. I mean, I don't dislike, I'm not against these theories, but I feel like they need a lot of explanation. And they probably also require another whole realm of thinking and conspiracy to be true. Next one. Oh, one of my favorites. One of my favorites that I'm a big fan of. In fact, it's almost a bit of a meme on this channel at this point, because I've talked about Phil Schneider and doing a video on him for probably about 6 months now, and I never have. But he does feature. There's a Phil Schneider feature in the next video that we're making. But I want to ask you guys, specifically, do you think Phil Schneider's story about an encounter, a violent encounter with aliens underground, is true or a delusion? Now, if you to give you a quick overview, I guess, Phil says that he was digging underground as a geologist for the military, carving out underground bases that exist everywhere beneath America, and that he kind of excavated into an area that was supposed to be empty, but it actually was an underground base with non-human intelligences in them. And once that happened, a skirmish ensued, and I believe that he says 66 people that were with him died, and that he has no, I think, middle finger and index finger. He thinks like they've been like, they look kind of like melted. They look like melted candles. Like Susan Goff. No, I'm just kidding. They look like melted candles, his fingers. What do you guys think? It's a tough one. I must say, Phil Schneider is the man that took me down the rabbit hole. He is the man that took me deep down the rabbit hole. We need more votes on this one, guys. 48 votes. We got nearly 300 people in here. I'm surprised. I'm surprised we have this many people going for fact. Many natives speak on what happens around Dulce, New Mexico. Who sent that? Rocky Skywatcher. I would love if you have any like videos or links about that, about natives talking about that kind of stuff. I'd love to see them. join our Discord if you're not already. There's a link below. You can drop it in there. Or maybe just send me a link on X because I would love to read about that. All right, we're going to wrap this one up. And I must say, I am pleasantly surprised with 69% of you saying Phil Schneider is fact, because I feel like, I mean, don't get me wrong, his story is extraordinary. But the more and more we start to learn and hear things from people like Matthew Brown telling us that reality is a controlled lie, essentially. I mean, I've always kind of believed Phil Schneider, more on intuition, but, you know, these things just kind of reinforce it for me. It wasn't really a battle. They got slaughtered. Yeah, exactly. I think Phil Schneider is more or less like a survivor. He's like a survivor of something wild that happened underground. And, you know, just for anyone who maybe doesn't know about it, just to add another layer to that, Phil Schneider was found suicided by asphyxiation with his own catheter, okay? And Phil Schneider did a lot of talks before that happened where he would publicly state, and when we do the Phil Schneider video, I'll make sure I show it all, but he would publicly state in all of his talks that he would never do that he's not suicidal, that he is, yeah, that there's no issue there. And he was found with his own catheter around his neck. Weird, right? All right, let's go. Let's keep moving. Crop circles. Okay, this has popped up this week. Actually, this is something to talk about, and I'll get the poll up and we'll talk about it first. So this is just crop circles in general. How do you guys feel? I know there was the big one that popped up like this week, but I just want to know, in general, do you feel like there is something to crop circles, or do you think it's just there to confuse people into some kind of idea of like fake aliens or something like that? So you guys probably saw that this week in the UK, a pretty, I would say reasonably complex crop circle popped up, and Kaspersite did a video on it where he went and sort of investigated it, I guess, and then he went home and reviewed footage that he took on a drone, and he analyzed footage where he saw what he started calling Tic Tacs flying past. And I don't know, I'm just not sure. I don't know if you guys have seen that video. I'm interested to hear what you guys think. But when he was showing that footage, going like, that's a Tic Tac, that's a Tic Tac, I was just kind of like, oh, I don't know about that, man. I don't know. Yeah, the shadow was apparently fake. Apparently it was just a plane flying past, but he had these little small white blurs shooting past, right? Now, the things that I think about is, one, when we look at the distance between the drone to the ground, and you can see the size of people on the ground, I mean, I feel like a Tic Tac would be way bigger. Like, when I think of a Tic Tac and the size that we're told they are, they seem like they're sort of like a small, like an SUV, maybe a little bit bigger than an SUV, right? They could fit a bunch of people in there. I don't think that's what we're seeing in those videos. Now, I don't know, maybe they can be bigger, maybe they can be smaller. But the other thing that I think about is that in the original Tic Tac story with Commander David Fravor, he says the Tic Tac went from sea level to 80,000 feet, or vice versa, in like at the blink of an eye. Okay, so the kind of speed required to do that, I don't know what it is, but it's extraordinarily fast, extraordinarily fast. I don't think that speed can be captured on a drone that's likely shooting at most likely 30 frames per second. Let's stretch it and say 60, which I don't think the drones, like your average consumer drone, shoots at 60. It might have an option to, but I don't think so. I think most of them are 30 frames. So it's taking 30 individual stills every second. I don't know if that's enough to capture something that is going from sea level to 80,000 feet in a blink, in like a fraction of a second, let alone just 30 frames per second. That's just what I think. But ultimately, when I see those things, I think it is just some kind of bug, some kind of bird. And yes, they are going quickly, but I think that might have something to do with the perspective and the parallax from the drone and the background behind it. DJI drones do 4K at 60 FPS. Okay, there we go. So the DJI drones can shoot at 60 FPS. Do I think, and I'm sure someone could probably do the math, to be honest. I certainly can't, at least not live on stream. I'd probably need a calculator and a bit of time. But if anyone with the time and the smarts to work that out, how fast speed-wise is a Tic Tac going if you can go from 0 to 80,000 feet in, let's say, 0.1 second, which I guess we could maybe agree is like the blink of an eye, right? What kind of speeds does that require? And what kind of frames are being capped? Like, what is that even capturable on a 60 FPS camera? Now, let's just wrap this up. 80% of you guys, I think, crop circles are facts, and I agree. Yeah, I think the crop circle did look pretty convincing. I will agree with that, Kat. But I wanted to say one last thing about the Tic Tac. It's gone. It's gone. It's in the bin. We're going to move on. If it comes back to me, I'll make sure I let you guys know. All right, next one. Recovered UFOs. By the way, these get kind of spicy at the end. I put a few real spicy ones at the end, so if you hang around, it's gonna get nice and spicy. Now let's put this one to the polls quickly. Recovered UFOs. So we are talking, does the military have craft that didn't originate from Earth in their possession? Is that a fact? Or is this some kind of diversion, some kind of Sciop to confuse people from the truth about what the phenomenon actually is? And I feel like if that is the case, if people are going to lean into the realm of Sciop and that aliens are a distraction, I think that's probably because this is more of a, maybe like a spiritual thing, right? Or an extra, and probably extra dimensional is a better way to say it. Jay says 80,000 feet in 0.1 seconds is 28. He's saying 28 billion miles per hour? Is that what that B stands for? I believe the radar data said 80K to sea level in 2 seconds. Interesting. I remember the blink of an eye statement, but I could be wrong. Have I looked into the cryptids named flying rods? I haven't, but flying rods is part of the Nuremberg celestial phenomenon, that there was like orbs, rods, and like sort of spiky star shapes, I believe, was part of that story. Kendra laying down the law. If you're going to comment your answer, make sure you guys vote. We got another overwhelming one. So we got 8%. 8% of people think that recovered UFOs are just a Sciop. So my question to the 8%, what do you think is the reason, and what do you think, I want you to speculate on what you think the truth of the phenomenon is, if everything we're seeing in Congress and all these whistleblowers are a Sciop. I want you to put your argument to the chat. What do you think is actually going on? And you're not going to get judged for it. It's just speculation. I just want to hear some alternative ways of thinking, because I think alternative thinking is key. All right, next one. All right, we're getting a little bit covered up here, but I think you guys can see what that means. Operation High Jump, a classic, an absolute classic conspiracy theory here. Did the US military battle unknown... We're starting to heat up a little bit, by the way. Did the US military battle unknown forces in Antarctica? Now, if you don't know what Operation High Jump is, well, the conspiracy behind it is that Admiral Byrd, who led the expedition of Operation High Jump to Antarctica, there are rumors, I guess we could say rumors, that when they went there, they were met with technology and forces that were beyond what we would consider human or normal, and somewhere along the realm of UFOs, potentially a non-human intelligence, but also I think the interesting part of this theory is UFOs with swastikas on them. Okay, that's just the rumor. Okay, but what makes this interesting is that Operation High Jump was posed as a scientific expedition, right? Operation High Jump was a scientific expedition for research in Antarctica, yet they took thousands of troops. They took battleships. I think they even took like vehicles on the ships to be deployed on Antarctica. So that sounds like a lot for a bit of science, and a lot of people died. A lot of people died. So why is that? They were searching for Hitler? Yeah. I subscribe to the idea that a lot of the highest ranking Nazis did flee to Argentina, and it probably had something, like Antarctica probably had some kind of hand in Argentina being the place. Because we know they went there in the 30s, right? New Schwabenland, that's a thing. That's not a conspiracy theory. That's a thing. And you know, their reasons for going to Antarctica were kind of based in the esoteric, in the hunt for knowledge and things that are, I guess, would be considered like probably a conspiracy theory, really. Need a third option, undecided. If you don't know, if you're undecided or unknown, you don't have to vote. We'll wrap this one up though. I'm surprised with that one. I must say I'm surprised. I did not expect that one to get such a high vote, because I feel like Operation High Jump is a real kind of tinfoiler. That's you've got to have your tinfoil hat on tight to be buying into this one. But if I had to vote, if I had to vote, now I'm putting myself in your shoes. It is tough. Oh, a toxic fart. Stick around. That's all I'll say. If I had to vote, I would vote fact, and I would vote fact because at the very least, I think there is more to Operation High Jump than we are told. Whether it is Nazis flying saucers, I don't know, but I certainly think it was more than just a research mission. All right, let's keep moving. Thanks for doing a react video to my demonstrations on how the Pyromania assets match both MH370 videos. Can you do one to my demonstration on the satellite background match next? Bakers, look, if you're obviously tuning in live, I don't know if you saw the start of this video, kind of talked about this stuff a little bit. I'm not, I didn't make that video to begin engaging in like a back and forth, right? I made that video to just give my opinion as someone who's worked in the visual effects industry. My opinion is that you're obviously a very good compositor. I can see that. You obviously, but the thing is though, I don't think you need to be a good compositor to understand the workflow and I'm sure I know you understand what I'm saying, right? You will understand that when I say to make those videos from scratch, right? And by the way, I'm explaining this following the line of thinking that they were made in 2D. I don't think there's any chance, bro. There's no chance that they're made in 2D. There's way too complex to be made in 2D. First of all, at the start of the thermal video, you see the drone go underneath the wake of the plane. For that to be done in 2D, that means we need 2D assets that are the correct parallax, that match the perspective. Like, there's no way these videos are done in 2D. So, I feel like I'm arguing a point that's just kind of irrelevant, to be honest. But just to entertain your line of thinking, if those videos are done in 2D, the amount of obscure, random and decisions that just serve zero purpose that would have had to have gone into making those videos. Like, it just doesn't compute. It does not compute. To make strange warps and adjustments to a effect on one frame, to have to do that to make it match, to me, does not say that they have used that asset, made the same adjustments, like in their project. Like, that just doesn't. It actually is the other way around. You have found an asset and made adjustments, and now you've matched it to this project. People don't do that in the beginning of a project. Like, they just don't. And another thing is, what about like in the satellite video, the mouse is moving at a different frame rate. So they would have had to render the mouse as a completely separate layer and then composite it on top. And it's dragging the screen. So we've got a mouse moving at a different frame rate that is interacting with something moving at a different frame rate, which is the screen. Could you do this in compositing? Of course you could. Of course you could do this in compositing. Would you? Would you have the forethought to be like, all right, I'm going to make this fake video where we drag the screen around, but I'm going to render the mouse at 20 frames. I'm going to render this, like, dude, I mean, yes, you could. Of course you could. But okay, so look, I'm not going to engage in like a back and forth because I'm sure you have an answer for everything. And dude, I'm not even trying to convince you. Like I said, to me, this wasn't even made in 2D. I think it just wasn't made in 2D, and I think that's pretty obvious. And the reason why I'm not really going to make another video like going back and forth with you is because I'm not doing this to have a back and forth. I just wanted to give my opinion because I see people look at the kind of videos you have made, and people who don't understand compositing, by the way, let's just come over here for now. I forgot that was still there. People who don't understand compositing would see your video, and it's very convincing. It is very convincing. And I just thought I want to give an alternative opinion because I think it's important for people to hear different sides of a story, to have an educated opinion on something rather than just hearing one side of things. And I do feel like X is dominated by your side of the story, which I don't necessarily agree with. But, you know, I'm also not like, I don't like hate you. I'm not angry at you. I don't, you know what I mean? I'm sure you're a cool guy. I just don't agree with your opinion on that. And you know, that just kind of is what it is. Yeah, look, dude, this live stream isn't here to answer your questions. We're actually in the middle of a game, but I just thought I would respond considering I did make a video, you know, kind of addressing your video. But I think that kind of clears it up, man. I'm not really here to make content about you or go back and forth with you. I'm just here to offer my opinion, and I understand it's not the one you agree with. I do find it odd that it bothers you that much that I don't agree with you. Like, you know, I don't make videos about people who don't follow my line of thinking. I just give my line of thinking, and people who enjoy it will come and hang out with me, and people who don't. You know, it just is what it is. 20 big bones from my man Blaze. Thank you, bro. That is a huge super chat. Just pitching in towards your new monitor. Love your channel. Appreciate all the hard work you put into researching all the various topics. Dude, that is a huge super chat. Thank you, man. I really appreciate that. All right, team. We got a little bit sidetracked there, but, you know, I did feel like I offered my man Bakers, you know, a little bit of time, a little bit of explanation. I hope you appreciate that, bro. We're going to get on with our game show now. We are in the middle. If anyone's just joined in, we are in the middle of deciphering whether things are fact or Sciop, and you guys get to decide. So let's continue on. We're going to be moving on with the hollow moon. Now, I'm sure you guys probably know that there are theories that the moon is potentially hollow. It's potentially a satellite. It's potentially artificial. You know, there are a lot of crazy theories out there, but I think, okay, we got it up. Let's get it to the polls. I think the main question is here, is the moon hollow, or is it something that we're not being told about, is kind of what we're looking at here. Because actually, I think I pulled up something for us here. I swear I did. Here we go. When the Apollo modules crashed onto the lunar surface, NASA's seismometers detected reverberations that lasted for hours, as if the moon were hollow. Scientists were baffled and speculation ran wild. That is the official story, by the way. Backdoor Sciop. What are the Chinese doing on the dark side of the moon? Maybe they're trying to dig and find where the hollow point starts and have a look at what's inside. Who knows? Not necessarily hollow, but definitely artificial. I like it, Sarah. I like it. I can get on board with that line of thinking. I think, yeah, the way that the fact that the moon always faces us is weird. I think that's just odd. And by the way, that doesn't mean anything. This is just me giving my opinion. I think something is weird. That doesn't literally mean anything. But, yeah. Your theory in the members video is spot on. Unity, you'd have to remind me. Can you remind me exactly what my theory was? All right, we're going to wrap that one up. Man, it is actually wild weather here today. I can hear the storm through my headphones. That's crazy. $5 from Kendra. Thank you so much, Kendra. Let's all pitch in for his monitor. When we get a second monitor, we're going to be, we're going to go up a level, okay? I'm going to be less like looking around everywhere and disorganized because I've got one widescreen, which is good, but I feel like that second monitor would just be good for like a constant. You need a couple of things that are constant, and then I've got all this space for other stuff. But at the moment, you can imagine, that Charlie meme with the conspiracy guy with the pin board? That's me right now. There's got this wide monitor of all these things, and I'm just like working out what the hell is going on. All right. 66% of you guys think the moon is in fact hollow, or it is at least more to it than we're told. And I would have to agree with that one. Okay, here's one. I'm going to have to make this a bit smaller. Here's one for my beautiful American audience. I know this is a big conspiracy for you guys over there. I've never been to Denver, so I can't comment on it. But I've read the things. I've read the stories. I've heard the things. And I want to know what's going on at Denver Airport. Is there something sus? And by the way, if anyone has stories, if any of you guys who have been to Denver Airport or have heard stories, tell me, because I want to know. Because I've never been. But I've certainly heard a lot about it. What is going on at Denver Airport? Are there secrets? Is there paranormal activity? Something weird happening below the runways? $15 from Heather Harding. Thank you so much, Heather. I appreciate your support a lot. Guys, we're going to have a new monitor in no time. This is great. I'm actually moving into a new room in the house, which is going to be more of like a designated studio, which I think will be really good because I'll have more space for my new monitor when it comes. And I'll also be out of my bedroom, which I think is going to be good for my health. Because, I kind of like get up, take one step, and now I'm at work. And then I get up, I take one step, and now I'm in bed. Holy shit, another $20 from Nicole? My gosh, I'm feeling a little bit speechless. Thank you guys, honestly. That's crazy. Thank you guys. They're huge super chats too. $20. Thank you so much, Nicole. I appreciate the support that you've given me today and from day one. You're one of the very first weirdos, original weirdos. And an $8 from Emily. Thank you so much, Emily. I appreciate it. I'm going to have 3 monitors. We're going to have 3 monitors. I really appreciate the support, guys. Thank you so much. And I hope you enjoy the game shows and stuff as well. If you haven't already, second channel link is below. It's going to be like a backup / just kind of like a anything that isn't UFOs channel. And join the Discord if you haven't as well. We have a lot of fun in there during the days. We're going to wrap this one up. 84% of people saying there's something sus about Denver Airport. So get at me in the comments. I hope there's some substance to what we're voting on there because I am genuinely curious. What is going on at Denver Airport? I've seen the stories, but I want to hear it from you guys. The next one is weather manipulation. Are the governments, the militaries, the whoever's manipulating the weather? I think we've all heard this one. Is there something going on there, or is it a Sciop? Another super chat from Lynn, one of our newest recruits and newest weirdos. Not as much, but as we say in Swede, many streams small. I like it. That's it. Everything counts. I really appreciate the support, Lynn. Thank you so much. 100% they are. Andrew, never heard about Denver Airport. There's a rabbit hole for you to go and dive into after the stream, my man. Dark energy at Denver Airport. It's not on my list. You guys know I'm planning on a little bit of a US tour. Well, no, a tour sounds like I'm like parading around USA. I'm not. I'm planning a road trip next year, which is shaping up to be extremely expensive. A lot more expensive than I thought. Yeah, I think it's because of the World Cup. I'm planning to go there during the World Cup, which certainly doesn't help make things cheaper. But I just think it would be an amazing time. I'll be there for the 4th of July as well. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be amazing. How long it's going to be, I don't know. But however long it's going to be an amazing time. I can't wait. Another tenner from my man, James. Thank you, James. I appreciate the support, man. I really, really do. Thank you, guys. The generosity tonight has been crazy. I can't express it enough. Jostradamus appearing in a town near you. That's right, guys. I'll be doing palm readings all through the southwest of America. Oh my god. Another $20 just came in from Ra. I actually am a little bit speechless, guys. Thank you so much. The super chats are actually huge. Like, that's crazy. Thank you, guys. I feel like I'm even going a little bit red. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, let's wrap this one up. I think we've got another pretty clear winner here. A lot of people feel like the governments are manipulating the weather, and I think you guys are probably right. We started something. No, Kendra, you started something. You started this. Thank you, and I'm very grateful for you and all the support everyone's showing. Josh, you catching up with Ashton while over there? I've actually thought about this. I actually have thought about Ashton in particular, but just kind of general content creators. I know Vetted, who I've had on the channel, is based in Texas, which I'm going to. I think Ashton's from Minnesota. Which is not on my track, so probably not. But if anyone is sort of based in, I'm planning to go from San Fran to like the national parks, then like, Vegas, Area 51, then like the bottom of Utah down through Arizona across into the deep south, via Texas. So if there's any content creators out there along that line that are down to like meet up and do something cool, maybe we could go, I don't know, go out to Sedona or something together. I don't know. I'm open to it, and I think it'd be a lot of fun. So yes, if people are down for it, I'm down for it. I love hanging out. Oh my God. Okay. Susie. Thank you so much. $30. That's crazy. Thank you so much to pay for the power cord for the new monitor. I think that'll probably cover a bit more than a cord, but yeah, that is actually crazy. I don't really know what to say. You guys are just super generous and kind. And, the fact that I get to sit here on a Monday and do this and talk to you guys about all this weird, interesting strangeness in our world, and that people are actually vibing it and want to hang out with me and do it, actually honestly means the world to me. So thank you. The $2 again from Toxic Fart, my favorite name to read out when he does a super chat. Thank you. And another $5 from True 79 goals. Thank you guys. Unreal support. Yeah, the monitors. We're gonna have 2 8K monitors at this point. Appreciate you guys. Don't go to the national parks alone. No. I'll be there with my partner. We'll be there. All right, let's move on to the next one. Let's keep this rolling, guys. Give the video a like. Give the stream a like if you haven't already. It'll help us grow, and that's what we want. We need to let more people know that the people they're arguing with online are actually bots, okay? And to just relax. Life is actually way better than the bots online are telling you it is. All right, here's another spicy one. We're starting to heat up a bit now. Operation Paperclip. Did Nazis build the American space program? So I guess this is kind of it feels like the answer should be like true or false more, but we'll stick to the theme. Operation Paperclip. I think this is probably going to be another overwhelming one. I think we all know what's going on here, but Werner von Braun was the first chief architect of, I could be getting this wrong, but I'm going to have a crack. The Marshall Flight Space Center. Actually, no, I need to look it up. I don't want to say it and be wrong. Where is it? Is it in Texas? Okay, I'm glad I didn't say it because I would have been wrong. Werner von Braun was the chief architect for the Saturn V mission at the Marshall Space Flight Center, which is in Alabama. I was going to say it's in Texas, but it's not. Texas is the Kennedy Space Center. See, I know what I'm talking about. I know what I'm talking about. Operation Paperclip. Werner von Braun, Hitler's right-hand man, developed the V-2 rocket and then developed the rocket that put America on the moon. Apparently. I think this is an overwhelming one that we can move on with. Yeah. Only a bot would say Sciop. I think Beth has, I think you've hit the nail on the head with that one. But there were 8% of you. So please, as always, if you voted that Operation Paperclip was a Sciop, get in the chat. Let us know why. Okay? You can't, if you're going to make wild accusations, you got to back it up. You got to back it up. All right. Oh, the Georgia Guidestones, which is going to feature in the next video that we're doing. Did someone or is someone trying to rewrite humanity's future? A new world order? The Georgia Guidestones. So to frame this in the question for you guys, to frame this in the context of this poll, I think what I want to say is Georgia Guidestones, is what was written on them something that is actually, God, how do I frame this into a question? Is what was written on the Georgia Guidestones something that is actually being planned and a fact? Or is it a psyop to scare? Is it a scare tactic? Is it there to confuse you? I feel like that's maybe a bit of a confusing one. Is what was written on the Georgia Guidestones a true plan that people are trying to enact? Or because like the Georgia Guidestones themselves are real. Okay, I think like that's established. We know that. But is what was on them something that people are actually trying to do? Or is just like a psyop to mess with people? Can you show us? I don't know what this is. Okay. I'm going to include them in the video that I'm planning to record and upload in the next day or so. But let me just try and find at least a picture. I don't want to go into it too deep because of that for you. You guys can do your own research if you want to. But I'll show you them quickly. Whoop. That was actually an accident, I swear to God. Okay. Georgia. Okay. Why did I type WikiLeaks? Okay, anyway. So this is not really the best example. What I wanted was Wikipedia, yeah. So these are the Georgia Guidestones. If you don't know, they're basically like 12-foot tall, massive stones that basically had 10 or 12 rules on what sounds like guidelines for a new version of society. And the very first guideline was that civilization must remain under 500 million people. Okay, so that's why this is kind of creepy. Is because it kind of alludes to like a global reset, a new world order, essentially. This is like the guidelines for the new world order. That's literally what it is. And they were erected. I don't know why I chose to say erected. They were made. They were made in, I think, the 80s by like an anonymous, there's a person there. There is a name, but it's just like a pseudonym or whatever. They're pretty much made anonymously. in the 80s, and then they were destroyed during COVID in 2022, which is very interesting. They were stood up. Yes, that's right. They were stood up. They were created, crafted, chiseled. They were anything but erected in the 80s. Okay. We're going to wrap this one up. Fact. Yeah, I think there's a lot. I think there's a lot to this. I think fact too. And I don't want to go too deep on it because I want to talk about it in a video. Okay, so we'll save it for that. But at least now you guys have a little bit of context and you know what's going on there. All right. Travis Walton, probably a famous, or probably the most famous abduction case, I would say. Would you guys agree with that? Would you guys agree that Travis Walton is the most famous UFO abductee? Let me know in the comments if you think there's someone more famous than Travis Walton. ChatGPT says 4.6 million people is the most population that Earth can comfortably sustain. Wow. Aren't we at like 8 billion? That's crazy. All right, let's get this on to the polls. Travis Walton. Basically, we want to know, was Travis Walton's story a fact? Did it actually happen? Or is it some kind of psyop? Poll is up. I saw someone say there, Kat Simpson, Betty and Barney. Yep, Toxic Fart also saying that as well. Lynn. Ooh. Betty and Barney Hill. Are they... they're very on par. Actually, maybe we'll do a secondary... We'll do a quick little secondary poll here. Travis got snatched for sure, poor dude. I think there is a lot about Travis's story. As wild and far-fetched as it is, there are things about his story that make me tend to believe. I think at the end of the day, you know, when it comes to like people being like conspiracy theorists and believing all this crazy shit, I don't necessarily think that they're crazy. I think once you start to like research a lot of this stuff and you realize how many lies are told and how many cover-ups there are and how much things are manipulated, it's not that you then believe everything, but it's just like you start to realize that everything is actually like a realistic possibility. Do you know what I mean? It's not like you're buying into every wild story you hear, but it gets to a certain point where you're just like, okay, yeah, these plasma orbs that seem to have been interacting with humanity for thousands of years according to all of these old texts and paintings, yeah, maybe they did zap a plane. Like, who knows? Obama's production company is making a movie based on Betty and Barney. Yeah, that's interesting. And what was their last movie? Don't Look Up? Was that them? A lot of people saying like Obama's dropping hints. You've seen a lot of stuff that you can't not believe. Interesting. Maybe the crazier the story, the more real it is. I'm just sus on when these stories are coming from Richard Doty type. Yeah, 100%. All right. Another heavy winner, Travis Walton. We're all on board with him. Travis has the support of the weirdos with 83% claiming fact. 16%, come on, Sciopers, get in the chat. You can't make claims and not back them up. Give us some reasons. Dirty Doty, Obama creeps me out. Obama does creep me out a little bit actually too. I don't know what it is. Who knows? Yeah, we don't need to go down that road. Next one. Okay, we're on the last few now. Men in Black. Real agents of secrecy or just a funny movie? Okay, so what we're asking here is Men in Black, are they real? Or people who report them are just victims of either watching too many movies or Sciop? When people have alien UAP encounters and see something they weren't meant to see, are they actually visited by men in black suits? both. MIB are not pure humans. Okay, I don't know if I've showed this video on the stream before. I feel like I have, but if I can find it, I want to watch it. You guys might know the video I'm talking about. Yeah, I've got it here. Okay, I'm going to play this video. It may load in with sound. I'll try and cut that quickly. So this is one of the most interesting videos
of a law office.
Okay, sorry. That looked very loud on my end. I apologize if it was. So I'll just start this again. So this is like a lady, this is like some security camera footage of a lady at her desk. And this guy who has a very weird build, very tall, slender, like perfect posture too. Like his shoulders are back. They're like perfectly relaxed. His posture is like unnaturally perfect. And his stature is just odd. And basically it seems like the woman shakes her head and he does some kind of like literal Jedi move, like a Jedi like, no, you didn't see that. And then she like does what he says. It's so weird. Check it out. So it's like she's like going to reach for a gun or something to like say like, get the fuck out of here. You know, you don't. And then look, hand raise, weird hand movement. And she just puts the gun down. And he's like using his hands and she's just following him now. And I think she actually leaves with him. And like, look at that. Look at that screen grab. Bro, look at that. What is that? What is that? That's weird. That's what that is. That is... And look at the way he turns his head. He looks like a clown at the show. You know those things? You put the ball in their mouth and he's just like... That's how he turns his head. It's a robot. That is a biological robot. Guy looks like a wax person. Yeah. Wow, 100% fact. That's our first 100%er. I may have skewed the votes with that video. But yeah, wow. That is one of the most compelling videos for me. Now, obviously anyone who wants to debunk it could just say it's fake. They're actors. Yeah, they could be. Could be. But you know, when you have thousands of people who don't know each other over decades, who have all said, I had this experience, and then these men in black suits who were very strange and weird showed up. I don't know. I don't know. I think there's something going on there. Next one. We have 3 to go. This is an interesting one. One that I think doesn't get talked about enough. The Battle of Los Angeles. The Battle of Los Angeles. Now, get in the chat. Do you not know? Does anyone not know? Because I'll give you a quick overview of what the Battle of Los Angeles is. But obviously, we want to know if you think it's real. Is it a fact? Or is it a Sciop? Now, I will say, if it's a Sciop, it's got to be one of the early ones. If this was a Sciop, they were Scioping well before Roswell then. That's what this would mean. A mock Sciop test before Roswell. Okay. Bit of a field test. I don't mind that. I don't mind that. I would accept that as a person. If the 8% of you are voting Sciop, if that was one of your reasons, I could go with that. Don't know what it is, Heather? Okay, so where are we? Actually, I feel like I don't know if we'll get anything here actually. Okay, so you can see it here. At least you guys can see some photos. So this was in 1942. in LA, in the thick of the war, air raid sirens went out, and which basically meant everyone get in your homes and bunker down. There is an aerial attack coming, and so these air raid sirens sounded, and just off the coast of LA, there were these lights in the sky, basically what you can see there, and there was just 10 to 15 minutes of anti-aircraft, like surface-to-air fire on these lights in the sky, and I think after like 15 minutes, they just kind of like slowly moved away. Now, I think like the story itself is kind of not murky, but I feel like it struggles to have much depth because when the sirens went, everyone had to go inside. So like from that point on, the story is just kind of from a military perspective, but it's an interesting one. 1942, this happened. 10 to 15 minutes of continuous fire at a light in the sky, and then this light just slowly moved away and disappeared. %, of you guys are saying fact on that one, and I have to agree. I think there's something to that. I think there's something to that one. Whether, I mean, who knows? I mean, if it is a fact, I think it's great proof that, I mean, we know about the Magenta crash now, but I think whatever this, you know, a lot of people like to point to Roswell as like the beginning of whatever all this stuff is, but I think it's quite clear, especially when we look at the paintings that we looked at in the last video, that whatever this is, it's been happening for a long, long time. All right, let's get rid of that. The Collins Elite. The Collins Elite. Is there a secret group that are working in an unofficial capacity? Because from my understanding, the Collins Elite is not, it's not like an area of the government, right? It's not like a department or an agency. It's a group of people who all hold very high level positions in government and military, who outside of government and military are a part of a group that is referred to as the Collins Elite. And that is like a religious group, and that is essentially stonewalling the dissemination of information of the phenomenon. Okay, that is what the Collins Elite are. And I want to know if you guys think the Collins Elite are real, or that, because I mean, we've really found out about them through people like Lou Elizondo. Sure, there's other cases, but I feel like he's who brought them to the mainstream, right? I think he wrote about them in his book, actually. So are the Collins Elite real? Are they fact, or are they, or is their existence in itself a Sciop? We've only got 3 more to go. That's the Tim Taylor crowd, right? Interesting. I've never thought about that. That's an interesting point. I think Tim Taylor is definitely, well, I believe he converted to Catholicism, right? Through his time working with Diana Pasulka, he converted to becoming Catholic, which says a lot, right? You know, I personally think that non-human intelligence is real, and there are probably many species, and they may even be interdimensional, potentially. But I also think that there is like another layer. There's another layer to things where there is some kind of like influence, like a spiritual, that's the best way I can explain it, like a spiritual influence on our consciousness. That, and I feel like that is more like the religious side of things, spiritual side of things. I feel like that stuff is real, but I feel like it gets lumped in as like, oh, you think aliens are spiritual, where it's like, well, I think there is the potential that they could both be true, that there are probably other intelligences that are similar to human but not us, and there is also like a, you know, something that's like manipulating consciousness as well. 80% of you guys are feeling fact, 20% are saying Sciop, which is interesting. I would love to hear from the Sciop crowd. Please get in the chat, let me know what you think about them, why you think it's a psyop. Make your feelings known, because that's an interesting one. I see what you're doing, Josh. These little surveys help fill up your fact checker book. You are hitting at every single flag topic I can think of. This is, I've done this to get a bit of a gauge on, and also it's fun. It's fun to do little polls, but it's interesting to get a gauge on like what the general consensus is on how people digest the information that we get. We have 2 to go. Ooh, I told you it was going to get a bit spicy at the end. This is one of my favorites. The Nazi bell. The Glocker. And actually, let's get it in the chat and we'll talk about it. Nazi bell, the Glocker. Is there something to this? Did the Nazis have a bell that was potentially manipulating time? Or is this some kind of weird psyop? Now, I will say, oh, I thought I had a bit of B-roll for this. You know what's interesting about this? You know what's interesting about this? Is that it's alleged that the Magenta crash in Italy, 1933, the Magenta craft was bell-shaped. It was bell-shaped. That's what is said. And Mussolini, who was running Italy at the time, thought it was a German Wunderwaffe. Thought it was part of the Germans' wonder weapons, right? And before the United States got involved, the Italians took it to the Germans and were kind of like, is this yours? Like, what is this? So, I don't know. What do you guys think? Is there a connection there? Because obviously whatever the Germans would have had and known would have came to America via Operation Paperclip, which we just established earlier was more than likely a fact. So was Die Glocke either a reverse engineered attempt or version of the Magenta crash? Is it based off what was found in Magenta, Italy in 1933? Or is Die Glocke actually the Magenta 1933 craft? I don't know. When I heard when that Magenta craft was a bell shape, and the story goes that, you know, the Italians took it to the Germans in 1933, I don't know. The story of Die Glocke has been around a lot longer than Magenta, Italy. I love this poll. I'm so proud of you guys. 90% of you think Die Glocke is indeed fact, and I think the Nazis were definitely dabbling with some kind of UFOs in the 40s and potentially the 30s. I do 100% think that, and I'm glad you guys do too. And we've had a 2,000 yen super chat coming in from my man Crazy T. Got to peace out now. Here's 2,000 yen to put towards whatever. The exchange rate sucks now, so it probably won't be much as it used to be, but keep up the good work. Thank you, bro. I really appreciate that. The generosity tonight in the chat has been absolutely insane. You guys are awesome. We have one last question to go, and I think this is the ultimate one, right? This is the one that we really need to kind of be aware of what's what here. Project Bluebeam is, and I guess what I'm asking here, because, and I guess this is something I'm going to explore in the new video, right? Is Project Bluebeam in itself a psyop? Okay, I think I need to flesh this out so you guys understand it a little bit more. If the government was going to, I need to think about how to word this properly for you guys. Let me get it in the chat first. Okay, so Project Bluebeam. Actually, I don't want to convolute it too much either. Project Bluebeam, is it a fact or is it a psyop? But I think you need to see, like, what I'm asking here is Project, I understand that this is confusing and I apologize. Is Project Bluebeam a fact Or is the notion of Project Bluebeam, is the notion that there is going to be a fake alien invasion a psyop? Do you understand what I'm saying? I'm layering it here. I feel like I've made this too complicated, and I apologize. But it is a concept I've been wanting to explore in a video. The fact that Project Bluebeam in itself might actually be the Sciop. I think the reason, like what my thinking was, is that if... Oh no, I think this is too complicated to explain on the spot. I need time. I'm just going to let you guys use the polls to decide based on, is the military going to stage a fake alien invasion as a means of control? Fact or Sciop? Epitome of Sciop, but will they or won't they? Could they pull it off? Yeah, I mean, it would be like, okay, let's just imagine that in real time. Something that is so convincing. Imagine being there and it's happening to you. Imagine walking out your front door. The skies are red. The skies are a red that you've never seen before. There are a fleet, an armada of UFOs from horizon to horizon, just dotting the sky. And then in front of you, there is a giant UFO. One that's way closer than the fleet that is like 100 meters away in the sky. That looks like it's coming down towards you. And, you know, maybe you see some aliens starting to descend out of the craft. And in your head, you're going, this is Project Bluebeam. Like, do you even think? Because that's what they've said, right? Project Bluebeam is meant to be something that's so convincing that, like, it's going to convince you. Do you think you could hold your shit together when you are standing there looking up at a fleet of underneath a red sky with UFOs coming down towards you with what looks like to you a real non-human zapping things? Do you think in your head you could go, nah, it's all fake. This is all fake. Don't believe it. Like, do you know how much of a psychopath you would look? Like, okay, so you've just walked out of your front house. All of your neighbors are now coming out. All of your neighbors are now coming out of their house. All your neighbors are all on their driveways too. By the way, this is a dream I've had, by the way. This is one of the dreams that have stuck with me for my whole life. About 15 years ago, I had a dream where I walked out of my front house and the skies were red and everyone was out in their driveways and it was like an Armageddon. That's a side story, but that's one of the dreams that stuck with me. Anyway, if that happened, do you think when all your neighbors start coming out on their driveway, you could hold your shit together in front of everything you're seeing and be like, guys, don't believe this. They're all actually fake. This is Project Bluebeam. These are all just holograms, and this isn't actually happening. They're just doing this to control you. One, do you think you could actually do that? I would probably say no. And two, even if you did, everyone is going to think you're a psychopath. Everyone is going to be like, dude, this is literally the end of the world. Okay, the skies are red. There is an armada of UFOs above us that we can all see. And you're standing here trying to say this is just the deep state. Like, do you realize how much of a psychopath you would come across as? And that's even if you could hold your shit together, which I feel like most people wouldn't. I feel like if something looks as real as we think it's going to be, it'd be almost impossible to not buy into it. Do you know what I mean? Like, we can read about Project Bluebeam all day, but in reality, if we see a sky full of UFOs and people getting beamed, you know, like, how are you going to stick in your head? How are you going to stay true to yourself and be like, nah, this is all fake. This is all fake. I'm going to go tweet about how they've just started blue beaming us. I don't know. I hope we do hold strong, but I don't know. It's been happening in New Jersey for the last year. Good point, Jack. Good point. They invented Bluebeam as a cover-up so they can say it's fake. So, Kat, that is kind of the line of thinking that I was trying to get to, is that, like, what if blue beam is like, what if blue beam is the disinformation? That's kind of what I was trying to get at, but I realized that it's actually quite a bit more convoluted than just saying that. I feel like it needs a bit of explanation, but I think we're on the same level. People will fold instantly. Yes, 100% they will. I think you can talk about blue beam all day, but if the military really has tech that looks indistinguishable from reality and the skies are full of it, everyone would actually probably shit their pants. And I actually mean that literally. Like when people have ontological shock, they literally piss their pants and shit themselves. And I genuinely think so many people will do that. And when you have millions of people around the world simultaneously shitting and pissing their pants, that, my friends, is catastrophic disclosure. That's catastrophic disclosure, and that's what we're trying to avoid here. Guys, thank you all for hanging out with me today. I had a lot of fun. I hope you guys did too. The generosity in the stream today was on another level. I can't thank you guys enough. It means the world to me. And I'm going to spend this afternoon working on a video that might be out tonight, maybe tomorrow. I don't know, but I'll do my best. It's going to be about 2027 and all the craziness that's been going on. But I appreciate you being here. Get some loves, hearts in the chats. And I'll see you guys soon. Take care.
Eventually people are going to say, what the hell is going on?
No matter how far you go into the dark, when you flip, you go exactly the same place to the light in our galaxy. Everything. Because everything is in balance. Everything is a polarity.
I think it's just going to get weirder and weirder and weirder, and finally it's going to be so weird that people are going to have to talk